All right. Good evening, everyone. Welcome back to the recap. Michael D'Angelo, joined as always by my partner in crime, Mr. Big D, Daryl Ortiz. And I can't believe it, we're only 1 week away from Backlash. Like, the time has gone, Big D.
I feel like they just snuck it up on us. I don't know. That was interesting. I was watching this week and I was like, wait, it's next week. I had to look at my calendar, but yeah, it snuck
Yeah.
up on us. So we're the week before Backlash, so that's good to know.
It feels like
And
WrestleMania.
we had like half and half, right? Like I that wake up on Monday about, oh no, we're a week from Backlash, and then like
Yeah.
Friday we're like, hey, draft time, which was cool. So that
Yeah.
was
A lot of
yeah.
stuff going on. WWE draft, Backlash. It feels like we just got through WrestleMania season, so
Yeah.
lots happening. We're gonna dive right into it. Big D, Monday Night Raw. What's the important things that happened this last week on Monday Night Raw?
So interesting Raw, for sure. We started out
Yeah,
with, of course, main event Jey Uso and Damian Priest coming out. They had their own little banter, and obviously, with the draft's coming up, you knew that Jay going up against Damian Priest, he was more than likely going to stay on Raw just because of the fact that they have that feud going and they have the
yeah,
title match. That's your number one contender, Jey Uso, which I'm happy to see. I've always said that I finally am glad to see that he's making a bigger impact than just tagging with random people. So I'm very happy to see that. One important thing to note on that, of course, lots was said. Typical back and forth banter. Damian Priest looking tough with his new theme music, and just he. I love Damian Priest as a wrestler, and I think he looks great as a champion too. Just seeing that belt on him is awesome. So I'm happy for that. But
agreed.
it was interesting to see the botched jump from behind with JD McDonough. How he just like completely like I don't know. At first, I was like, "Oh, did he miss like on accident?" But no, that was, like, obviously it's part of the thing, right? But
Yeah,
it was just
yeah,
so bad. Like he just whiffed that, and Jay ended up hitting Damian Priest with a super kick instead of JD McDonough, and again, just pulling them further and further away. Afterwards, you had Damian Priest telling them that he doesn't need them; they need him. So again, there
yeah,
was always that. There was always that tension between them when Rhea was pretending to let him be in charge and all that. And so now it's really starting to come to fruition a lot more because now he's pissed. Now he's showing, hey, I cashed in without you guys. I did it on my own, and I'm curious to see how this pans out in terms of the title shot. I don't think I don't think Jay's gonna win the title. I think it's too soon for Damien to drop it, but
yeah.
I wouldn't be mad if Jay wins it. But at the same time, I don't think he will just because I think it's too soon. And it's
Agreed.
Backlash. Typically, in betweener pay per views, what I like to call more premium live events, they don't usually switch titles too much. But
Yeah.
I'm curious to see how this pans out because I feel like what'll happen is eventually one match he's gonna need the Judgment Day and they're not gonna come out because they're gonna be like, well, you said you didn't need us, so we didn't come out. But
Yeah.
yeah, so I don't know. It was interesting, but I like that little bit that they're adding in now. Rhea's gone now; they're gonna kind of crumble. It looks like.
Yeah, I like that too, and I think it's going to be interesting to see where they kind of go with Dame because almost feel like he's getting a lot of love from the crowd now, and he doesn't seem as heelish. Like he's turning on
Mm-hmm.
the Judgment Day more, but
Mm-hmm.
even in his promo against Jey Uso, he was somewhat complimentary. Obviously, he does the whole "I'm
Right.
going to beat you" and this and that,
Mm-hmm.
but he was somewhat complimentary and talked about having drinks with him, and the
Yeah.
time they competed against each other. So I'm like showing a little bit of a different side here. I think they're trying to
Mm-hmm.
go more for the likability, less super heel. So it'll be interesting to see, yeah, if they step on the accelerator. And
Yeah.
so you see more of the division with the Judgment Day. This was the theme of the night with factions, though, and we'll
Yeah.
get into it. There was a
Yeah.
lot of
I called one of
turmoil
them. I'm happy for
internally.
that. So
Yeah,
that'd be great.
there you go.
After that, we had the tag team title match between Awesome Truth and DIY. A good little match. A fun
Yeah,
match actually. I liked it a lot. It was a good match to see. Of course, Truth looking great in the ring as always.
yeah.
Especially for what is he 50? Oh my God, he makes everyone else look
He's
bad.
like 52 or something.
He sets the bar, man. My God, that's crazy, but that's good, right?
Yeah,
And so, a lot of near falls. I liked it a lot. I love that DIY is still pushing the whole DX theme, like with their tights and everything. Like that's the
yeah.
color scheme and everything really cool. I love seeing that. I like that they're just going along with that. But of course, Awesome Truth won. They defended the titles, and I'm curious to see who their next opponents will be. I don't think they have a title match for
They
Backlash.
don't. I was
So
surprised because I thought this was going to be on Backlash. I thought they were
me
lining
too.
up the title defenses for
Yeah,
Backlash, and I'm like, oh, they're doing it here on Raw.
yeah. I
And
don't
they
think
did, of course,
Backlash
have
is going to
options.
be a long event. That's why I think they're not going to try and put too much in
Yeah.
it.
And it's funny too with this one at the end. You had Johnny Gargano and Tommaso Ciampa kind of doing the handshake. So Gargano gives a handshake, and then Tommaso like shrugs it off and walks
Yeah,
off.
because he's
And
mad.
I'm like,
Yeah,
he's mad. I'm like, oh, so are we gonna maybe see a split with DIY now? Like, what's going on here? It was just talking
yeah,
like the theme we just got off the Judgment Day that happened. I was like, that's like two in a row, and then we continue.
yeah, yeah. Well, and it's funny because they did like one of those like Raw exclusive, like their online exclusive interviews for backstage, and he even walked out of that interview. So,
Yeah.
don't get me wrong, I love DIY, but those of you that have been following them for a long time know that when they were in NXT, they broke up at one point, and their rivalry matches were insane. So, I mean, if we're gonna get that on Raw elevated like that, I'm all for it.
Yeah, and they're both great. They're both great individual competitors. So like they can have great singles careers, and they're a great tag team. So I'm good either way.
Yeah, same here. After that, we had Gunther come out with Imperium to talk about, now that he's now becoming the hunter. He's not the hunted anymore. It was an interesting approach. He thanked Sami Zayn for relieving him of that, target or that stress, so to speak, of having to constantly defend and having that title for as long as he did. And of course, then he declared for the King of the Ring tournament. Which after he did that, I was like, actually, that would be kind of cool to see Gunther as King of the Ring. Like that would actually be pretty badass. So I'm hoping that's what they do. That would be really cool to see. Then of course, New Day interrupts because Xavier Woods used to be King of the Ring, and way back, I remember that. And of course, a little banter back and
He's
forth.
the last.
He is the last
King
one,
of the Ring
20
winner, right?
Mhm.
And
He
it was
is.
a couple of years ago. That's
Yeah,
why
it
I'm like,
was.
so it's been a few years since they've done King of the Ring, and he's the reigning King of the Ring. Yeah, coincidentally.
Yeah.
So it's nice to have the tournament back this year. But when you
I
saw, I was
agree.
like, oh, they didn't do much for Xavier Woods.
And they added Queen of the Ring too, which we can talk about after this. I got some stuff.
Yeah,
for
we'll
that,
talk about
but-
that later. Yeah.
But yeah, so I think Xavier Woods comes out. Of course, him and Kofi already in their ring gear. You know what's going to happen. Teddy Long style tag match between Imperium and New Day. Because I like the way Gunther was just like, you know what, I'm not going to deal with you. And he told Ludwig Kaiser and Giovanni Vinci, like, handle these guys. They in fact did not handle those guys. It was a great match. Don't get me wrong; it was a good match, fun match. But New Day won. And you could see it lingered a little too long after the end of the match, and I was kind of like,
Yeah.
"This is it. This is where it's all gonna." And he's there, and it just they just stood on them, and he was just like disappointed because Vinci took the pin, Kaiser didn't, and Kaiser's just there, and he's like, it's okay. Gives him the kiss on the head, and then he goes. They go outside, and then that's when he just demolishes him. Like he just obliterates him, throws him onto the steps, and actually hits the same running drop kick that he did to the head on the stairs that he did with Kofi. They put Kofi out, so it looks like they're riding out Vinci for a while. He literally just, and I feel that this one looked more brutal than when he did it to Kofi.
Yeah, it did.
Because he was running from the ramp. Like, it was insane. He was like, all right, I'm leaving. Then he goes and he just like bolted down. And I was like, oh my God. Like, he hit that hard. And so that was, again, just, and then at the end, you're thinking, oh, what's Gunther going to say? He's backstage smiling. And Ludwig Kaiser's
He
like,
was
I
just
told
like,
you I'd take care
Gunther
of it.
signed off on this. Like, he was like, take care of it. He's like,
nodding in approval.
It's like,
Yeah.
Wait a second.
It kind of reminded me.
So this is the.
Sorry,
Go ahead.
it kind of reminded me of like you remember like in those old like 80s teen movies, like where like the heel athlete, he'd have his cronies jump and he'd just stand there and just be like, nah. Like, that's what it reminded me of. I was like, but don't get me wrong, I love Gunther and I think it's awesome. But
Well, it was great, and they did the same tracking shot, like up the ramp into the back, and so like they're continuing to really lean on the cinematic stuff, which looked great. It looks great, and you don't have to wait till later to see like a backstage interview with like, oh wait, he signed off. It's just
it's like the
immediately
instant
transition to that. So it's cool.
Exactly. So yeah, what did you think about the turn?
I mean, I think it was pretty predictable, but at the same time, I was like, now it's 3 in a row. We've had 3 faction issues,
literally
in a row.
back to back.
Back to back to back. And I'm like, and then we get a 4th one. that's coming up later. And I was like, huh, this is an odd setup, and I couldn't tell if this was just being set up right before the draft,
Yeah, I
where
think
they
it
were like,
was.
we're gonna start tossing people around. If it is, I guess we'll see it all on Raw next week because we didn't see
Yeah.
any of it on SmackDown.
No.
But that's originally what it felt like to me. Is okay, we're putting everybody in their place, so when we start dividing teams up, it makes more sense now because
Yeah.
we're having all these. We're signaling that they're all falling out with each other.
Well, or I feel it could also be that maybe they're going to be moves done. You know how they always do, like, oh well, after the draft's over, here's like the rest of the lineup or
Yeah,
whatever.
the rest of the moves.
So I think that's what will happen. But yeah, it was interesting. I think that match was really just to set up that turn. So the match wasn't really anything like too crazy. It was just to really
Yeah.
just set up that break.
And we've seen the New Day versus Imperium a bunch of times, and they
Good
even made a
matches,
joke
but
about it. It's like
yeah.
they're great, but that they even joked around about, oh, we're gonna do this for the 100th time.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
it was like they kind of winked and nod. Yeah, we know we've done this a lot, but there was a purpose behind doing it here.
Yeah. And then after that, we had Drew McIntyre come and do the CM Punk crisscross applesauce drop down.
Yeah.
And, he's there, talking as always. So kind of now he's doing it more of like it's, I see what they're doing. They're kind of making him just be the one to make excuses. But again, Sheamus interrupts. And again, with his old theme music, which is awesome to hear. And they did that piece and Sheamus comes out, tells him, dude, like, what's wrong with you? Like, just that's like, I guess saying like, you're not like how you used to be. You're just hung up on this. Like, what's going on? Then of course, Drew brings up like his weight and all that stuff. And so, before you know it, he's like, well, you know what? I'll tell you what, because I care about you. He's spinning it as like, he's bringing up the weight stuff because he's like, I care about you. And it bothers me.
Yeah, everyone
that
else is
nobody
making fun
respects
of
you. Yeah,
you.
they're making fun of you
Yeah.
backstage. They're telling you this, which Sheamus is an awesome internet troll. I don't know if you guys noticed. They've been about the whole burger thing. Then he sent out a tweet. I want to say shortly after this or like the day after Raw, where he put, hopefully when I win King of the Ring, they'll call me this, and he put like Burger King on there. So I thought it was, yeah, I love it.
And
So,
Sheamus is already looking fitter. So
Yeah, he is.
this is what's funny about it too. He actually, when I saw him on Monday, I was like, you can tell from week to week,
Yeah.
he's actually dropped a little bit of weight already.
He's
And
clearly
obviously
still
training
working
really
out.
hard.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's clearly still working out. He's obviously training very, very hard. He actually looked a little fitter this week. He's gonna be fine.
Yeah.
He certainly is not gonna be looking like he did 20 years ago. He'll
No.
look good. I thought he looked good in the match against Shinsuke because that's what this led into.
Yeah. They led to him
And,
against Shinsuke.
Shinsuke
Which was a good
Nakamura,
match.
and it was funny because you see him versus Ivar last week, so it was like him against a very large, very strong opponent, and then obviously against Shinsuke, who's the smaller opponent, quicker, and he worked really good matches with both of them.
He did.
I was like, okay, this is a nice change up, and you still got to see that the continuation of him just getting back to form. So
Yeah.
I liked that one, and of course the banger used to be banger after banger, now it's burger after burger.
Yeah.
Hilarious. I was hoping that he was going to come back with, I can lose the weight, because he said I can lose the weight. You can't lose stupid. I was hoping he was
Yeah.
going to say I can lose the weight, but not as fast as you lost the world title. Like if
Yeah.
he had said that, it
That would've
would've
been great.
But you can tell he's still trying to like be his friend.
Yeah,
like he's like,
because
I'm
they are
coming at you
friends.
from friends.
Yeah.
He wasn't going to insult him. Yeah.
Exactly. But yeah, the matchup against him and Shinsuke was a good one. I liked it. He hit a nice bro kick from out of nowhere to get that victory. I liked the match. It was good. Again, like you said, just sets up more of him back onto his like rise back up again, especially because it sounds like he's going to be part of King of the Ring. So I think that's going to be good for him as well. So after that, we had the Chad Gable, I believe. Yes.
Yeah.
It was Chad
It was
Chad
him
Gable
coming down.
with the why did he do what he did. It was kind of weird because they went to Sammy to interview him and he was like, no, Chad's going to talk about it. I want to hear what he has to say first before I make up my mind or whatever. And I mean, Chad pretty much just, is doing the Owen Hart shtick. It should have been me. It should have been me. It shouldn't have been him. It should have been me.
Yeah.
I guess like us much more tenured viewers, we should say, know that that's more, we've seen that happen before, but I kind of like it for Chad because Chad's always been a quiet, he's always been good on the mic, but you never really hear him talk too much. With Alpha Academy, it was more like comical, I feel, at one point, and now it's getting to more serious. And actually, it was kind of like, it was a good heel turn. I actually really enjoyed this heel turn because he didn't turn on his faction. Well, he kind of did, right? But he
did, but
did, but he was like, I'm heel, so now you are too, because you wouldn't be where
Yeah.
you are because of me without me. And so kind of playing on their insecurities. So he's really more like a manipulator, gaslighter, if you say,
Yeah.
if you care to say. And so now that's kind of what he's doing now. He's like, no, you wouldn't be where you're at if it weren't for me. And so you need to, back me up. You'll help me win no matter what. And I want to hear you say it. And he like the way he ran down his team was like, oh my god. He went to Tozawa and he was just he's like, all you do is your goofy night. Like he just went off, and it was kind of uncomfortable a little bit. You could tell the crowd didn't know how to react to it. And then he went to what's her name? Oh my god, her name
Maxine Dupree.
Yes, Maxine. Thank you. Thank you.
Maxine, yeah.
Yeah, Maxine, and he just kind of went off on her too, and you could tell she was just like, oh my god. And then he went to Otis, but he really didn't have much to say to Otis, because I feel like if the Alpha Academy's saving grace is going to be anything, it's going to be Otis turning on Chad, and I think
Yeah.
that'll be the match to see, because I feel like Otis is. You could tell it's festering in him, and he's getting more like bothered by it, because Otis isn't a heel. He was a heel at one point, but I think the way they're doing it, I want to say he's gonna have his feud with Sami Zayn, Chad Gable, Sami Zayn. That's gonna go on for a little bit, but I feel like in the background you're gonna start seeing him where he's gonna be belittling the Alpha Academy, and I think at one point Otis is gonna be the one that gets fed up and kind of just steps up and takes on Chad Gable, which would be a great emotional match to see, because I feel like Chad Gable literally saved him from being cut back when
Yeah.
what was their tag team name?
It was Heavy Machinery.
Yes, Heavy Machinery got broken up, and his buddy got cut, and he didn't, and they kind of didn't know what to do with him for a while. But then they paired him up with Chad, and it was amazing, because his in ring work got a lot better, a lot cleaner, but also like just overall, like I think it just helped him in his character development. So I think it's gonna be one of those like student becoming the master kind of thing. So I'm curious to see how that goes. But for now, we're gonna have Sami Zayn and Chad Gable feud.
Yeah, and he was kind of reluctantly agreeing with him, because he was like,
Yeah.
Otis, you're my prize people. You're the biggest disappointment of them all, and so which kind of surprised him. And then this is the one the crowd got behind the most, where they were
Yeah.
like chanting for Otis.
Yeah, they were.
And he was kind of like that, whatever it takes, and he goes, whatever it takes, but kind of reluctantly. So it's like, okay, they're clearly going to build to this. He's going to begrudgingly go along, but it's like the splintering of the factions.
Yes.
It's like this was the continuation of that. Now I'm like, okay, now that's 4 that they've done. The other interesting note, when you think of from a few years ago, they had the big set of NXT call-ups, which was Lacey Evans,
Yep.
EC3,
EC3.
Heavy Machinery, and then Lars Sullivan. I think were the
Oh my
3
god, I
or the
remember
4.
Lars Sullivan.
And I'm like, the only one left out of that group is Otis.
It is.
And you think about it, they're all gone. So
Well,
Otis has
Lacey
been
Evans,
the
I
only
think
one
she's
that is-
still
Lacey Evans, she
technically
retired though.
Did
Like
she?
she said that she retired. Yeah, she
Oh, that's right.
retired
That's right.
and she walked away and said she was going to do other things beyond wrestling. She's gone. Obviously, EC3's on the independent circuit. Lars Sullivan lost his mind and is out harassing people apparently out in the world.
Yeah.
But
Hope he gets
I hope he gets help too.
Yeah.
But it's amazing when you see. I remember that was such a major call up at the time. They did all these promo videos with all of them, and I was like, Otis is the last one standing out of that whole group.
And you know what's crazy? The one I was looking forward to the most was Lars Sullivan, because of the way he would just destroy people in NXT. Like the way they built him, his entrance was awesome. The music, it was almost like Psycho Sid, kind of.
Yeah.
And it was like really cool. And I was so sad, because obviously he was struggling with mental health, and I think it was more like the
Yeah,
anxiety and all that. And again, anyone out there, it's okay to not be okay. Ask for help, right? And I hope that
ask for help.
I hope that I hope he does get it, because he was such an intimidating figure, and he didn't have to talk. They would make him talk, but I think that's a Vince thing. But I think he was so great like that as just a monster heel. I feel like he would have benefited from having like a manager, maybe like a Paul Heyman, or not even Paul Heyman, even if you just
definitely.
if you've got somebody else to just be his mouthpiece, even better. But
Yeah.
it is what it is.
would
But
have,
yeah, so Otis is the last one
Anyways.
standing. He's come through and
one
powered
standing.
through. So it'll be interesting to see that develop. So I'm curious. Speaking of developing, after that we had Ricochet and Andrade, which is the tag team I didn't know I wanted, versus JD McDonough and Santos Escobar, subbing in for Dom, because apparently Dom's injured now, and so
Yeah.
which is funny. But the way they, he's like, I got
And
it.
he's got like a shoulder injury. I was like, is it by osmosis from Rhea Ripley or what
Yeah,
is
but
he
I'm like,
walks around with his
I
arm
like
just
it because I think people underappreciate Dom. I really do, and
yeah.
I like Dominic Mysterio because I think one, he has so much. He can barely talk on the mic, and
Yeah.
it's hilarious because but his in ring work is really good. I think we've touched on that before. Like his in ring work
Mm-hmm.
is so good now. It's more polished. You could tell his dad's been working with him and whoever else he's training with. I'd have to look into that, but he's doing a lot better, and I like that a lot. From when he first won the tag titles with his dad, you could tell he was kind of shaky and unpolished, and now it's like he's developed really well. But anywho, Ricochet and Andrade took that win. They defeated, which actually was a pretty good tag team match because of course Andrade, Ricochet, just awesome. I had a really good time watching that. It was very interesting to see. And then you had Andrade pick up the victory over JD McDonough. Of all people, right? It could have been against Santos, but they don't want to tarnish Santos, so they had JD take the loss. And what happened
JD's
after
always
that?
got to be the cannon fodder.
Yeah, he is, and I think it's going to be one of those that they're going to eventually, either get him out of the faction or they're going to split because of him. But yeah, so after that, Damian Priest just showed up and just laid waste to everybody. He took out Andrade, he took out Ricochet. Then he told Dom and McDonough that they need him more than he needs them, which was a good exclamation point to close out whatever he was telling them before, because he just they struggled, they lost. He comes in, clears house, and he's like, "That's how it's done. I don't need you. You need me." And he walked away, and they were just like, "Oh my god!"
Which it was a good contrast because it was like they botched the save earlier, and then now it was like, hey, he comes in there and wrecks two quality stars, and like just absolutely goes out there and wrecks them.
Yep.
This was match of the night for me. I love this one. I thought it was really good. To your point, Andrade and Ricochet were an excellent tag team. Santos and JD were an excellent tag team too.
Did.
I was like, everybody that was involved was really good in this one.
Yeah.
And they all had really good chemistry together. So for me, seeing them all together, at first I was a little hesitant because I'm like, this feels like a kind of a hodgepodge of heels and faces working together, but it really worked.
It worked really well. It caught me off guard. I agree. Match of the night. It was very good. I love Ricochet. I love Andrade and Santos Escobar. I've always praised them, but yeah, JD caught a break with Santos. That was great, and it was a good match. So I'm happy with that.
Yeah. And Ricochet is apparently our speed champion.
Yes.
I don't like the way that sounds.
Those. Okay, so those matches are really good. They put it on X.
Yeah, it's like 5 minutes. It's like a 5 minute
3 minute match,
right? 3 minutes.
Yeah, 3 minutes.
Okay, yeah, because
it's very fast. If you miss the old cruiserweight style, that's what that is. It's all the cruiserweights, and they just go to town. And Ricochet has been able to really, really stand out on those matches. And I'm saying, y'all, if you have 3 minutes, you can just jump on and watch them. They're so fun, so fast paced. They have commentary, which I feel so bad. As a commentator, I feel bad having to call a match with so many spots crammed in that such a small window. I thought to myself, could I call this? No.
You could. If it's 3 minutes, just get yourself like amped up. Just know you're going full speed for 3 minutes.
Your voice is going to be shot.
And then you get a break. Yeah, your voice will be shot. You'll be out of breath, but it's like, just got to hang in there for 3 minutes. That's all you got to do.
Props to Corey Graves, because I could not. That's crazy. It's fun. Speaking of fun, we had the Women's Battle Royal to determine the world title.
We sure did.
It was good. You had typical battle royal spots. You had, of course, Nia Jackson eliminating a bunch of people trying to eliminate her, back and forth. End result: Becky Lynch wins the title. Spoiler alert, right? But Becky Lynch wins the title again. Which, if I'm being honest, and I'm gonna start this with, I love Becky Lynch. I love everything she's done. I love everything she's accomplished. She's amazing on the mic. She's a great in-ring worker.
But
it should have been Liv. I feel that would have progressed the story a lot better. And I thought it was going to be Liv, because at the end, it was her and Becky fighting on the ring apron. And I was like, oh yeah, they're gonna just this is gonna be one of those finishes that it's gonna hit on the ring apron and done. And I thought she had it when she was gonna hit the Oblivion off of the ring post. And Becky countered it and got the win. But I don't know. I just feel that Liv Morgan would have made a better story, just because we've already had the Becky Lynch tried and failed and tried and failed and tried and failed. And I guess this is her redemption, which I get. That's fine. I'm happy with Becky Lynch. She's a good champion. I think she'll do the title well. but she's held it so many times and for so long already. I feel like
Yeah.
this should have been Liv Morgan to win, because here's why. Now, bear with me. I'll put on my tinfoil hat here. She inadvertently took out Rhea Ripley, right? But of course, they're painting it as she did, that she took out Rhea. She made Rhea get rid of the title or vacate the title. And then she wins the Battle Royal. Rhea can come back, or anyone can now she can play the heel champion where, you're not worthy of my title, and then only defend sparingly. And the whole argument from everyone else can be the only reason she won is because it was a battle royal. She can't handle us straight up 1-on-1. It has to be in like a setting where, and maybe do her matches where they're like triple threats, where she can kind of lay low, let people beat up each other, and then go in for the victory. Like, do stuff like that. I mean, Liv is a great wrestler, but at the same time, the way that they're building her character, I feel like this would help put some more heel heat on her. And I feel that her winning the title would have probably been a little bit more in line with the story, because her and Rhea can really build a feud off of that, and maybe lead to where when Rhea does return, it can be like, you're gonna face, let's just say, I'm gonna throw a name, let's just say Becky Lynch and a mystery opponent, 8 months down the road, 3 months down the road. I think it's 8 months that Rhea's gonna be out, but 8 months down the road, you have, against a mystery opponent and somebody else in a triple threat, and then have Rhea's music hit and the pop you'll get off of that, and it'd be Rhea's old music, not her Judgment Day music, like her actual old music. She does do This Is My Brutality, but still have that happen. And that's where Rhea kind of reclaims her throne. Now you've given Liv a decent title run to kind of be a heel, but then you have Rhea come back to this like thunderous uproar of applause and cheer. And, not a quick match. Make it one where they do have to duke it out, because Liv's gotten better progressively as she's defended the titles, to where now she's winning one-on-one matches and everything. And now it's like, okay, now you got to defend against the person you should have beat to win. And that's Rhea's opportunity to take it back. But that's my little soapbox. I feel that as to why Liv should have won, but Becky's a new champ.
This one's tough for me, because I get why they put the title on Becky.
Right.
Like I think it makes sense, because they're like, we need a credible champion. She's kind of doing the book tour right now.
Yeah.
Like, let's give her the title. We weren't expecting to lose Rhea Ripley.
Yeah.
So I understand the decision they made. I didn't like the Battle Royale. Like, for me, that was the worst format to do this with, because it felt rushed. It felt like it was like, hey, we got to do something. Like, let's just put the title on somebody. And let's do it as fast as possible. Like, were they in that much of a hurry to put the title on someone? Couldn't they just let it breathe a little bit? Maybe do a tournament of some kind and just use the top contenders? Because why would Carter, Chance, Piper, Green, Maxine Dupree, Candice LeRae, and Indy Hartwell, what qualifies any of them to be competing for the women's world title at this point? Like,
there was no Bianca Belair or Jade Cargill.
And I'm like, why on earth? Like, they're like, every woman on the roster. I'm like, that's not every woman on the roster. No. Maybe every woman on Raw.
Exactly.
Why on earth do you have all these people that are very undeserving? You have some former, Shayna Baszler was there, obviously. And she's a former champion. So it's like, you have a few people that are in there. But Stark was in there as well, a former contender. But it's also like, you just have a lot of filler in there. And then they had Becky Lynch get taken out and like pulverized to the table through the middle rope. So she missed most of the match.
Yeah.
She didn't come back in until it was down to Nia Jackson Liv. And then she just pops back in and is like, hey, remember me? I'm still here. And it was like, yeah, you took like half the match off. And then, so there were long stretches where I forgot it was a women's world title match, where it just felt like it was just a battle royale. And I was like, okay, oh yeah, wait a minute. They're fighting for the women's title. So it was just a bad format for it. And I feel like do a tournament. Maybe it would have made more sense if you know that Rhea's going to be out for an extended period of time. It sounds like if you said 8 months, that's a while. Like, why not take that? And because they said, it's a few months, but I hadn't heard an update on it. So
I think
if it's an extended period of time,
yeah,
then wouldn't it make more sense to say, hey, we're doing the Queen of the Ring? Just tack that on to the whoever wins Queen of the Ring is the world champion.
Yeah, like add that as extra benefit. Yeah,
yeah. Say we weren't expecting this to happen. They have the title plus their women's world champion, and then you can make a longer story. You can stretch it out a little bit. You can build the drama with it. I think they didn't want to put it on Liv right away, and they feel like they're still kind of building her through a progression. It's like, it's too soon. So I kind of understand that. I do. But
Yeah.
what I don't like is that now Liv has now been the runner-up in 3 consecutive major matches. So she was the immediate runner-up in the Women's Royal Rumble.
Right.
She was the runner-up in the Elimination Chamber. And now she's the runner-up in the Battle Royale. Like, she's like the last person eliminated. She's becoming like the 1990s Buffalo Bills now, where it's like, oh, you can get you're really good, but there's always one person that's just a little bit better than you. So you gotta stop having her just be the second runner-up to everything.
Yeah.
And then hope that she'll get it eventually. It's like, no, you're starting to have her lose credibility there in trying to protect her.
Yeah.
But hopefully they build a program with her and Becky, because it wouldn't make sense for Becky to hold on to the title until Rhea Ripley comes back. We've already seen that. So it'll be interesting to see how they progress it forward. But this just felt like they were rushed. They kind of got backed into a corner. Safe pick, Becky, and they did it. And I understand, but doesn't mean
I get it. Like I said, I totally get it as well. But at the same time, it would have been nice to see Liv kind of, again, if you're going to be a heel, then that's how you take it, the easiest route possible. You know, you had a bunch of tag teams in there. You knew none of the tag teams were going to win. You knew that. I mean, that's why they had Nia.
Yeah, it's like they're just there to do spots.
Yeah, exactly. So I mean, and I'm trying to see here. I don't know. I'll have to give you guys an update on that later. I don't know. I don't know why I heard 8 months somewhere, but I guess not. I'm sure they'll say it later. But again, I would have liked to see it added to like the Queen of the Ring. That would have been good.
That would have been cool.
Yeah.
But we got what we got. Becky Lynch is your new Women's World Champion.
So overall, Raw, I would say about a B- or so. I mean, it had one great match. I wasn't a fan of the Battle Royal. Although I love Royal Rumbles, Battle Royals. I love those. But it just, I gave it a B- because I liked the stories that were pushed along. I feel it was kind of lazy to have like back to back faction turns. It really was just like buttoning up everything just so they could, do the draft and possibly draft people separately and all that. So I mean, I don't know.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, overall B-. It was an okay show. Had some good spots. Best match was the tag team. It was the Andrade and sorry, hang on a second here. My notes.
Yeah, Ricochet Andrade. Versus,
Ricochet Andrade
JD
versus
and
JD
Santos Escobar.
Yeah, that was the match of the night.
That
for
was
me.
Match of the night.
It was,
Agreed.
That was it.
B show. Yeah, I mean, it was okay. It was all right. B show. They're kind of setting the table for Backlash.
Yeah.
Which took us into night 1 of the I almost said NFL draft. It's also draft season for the NFL. WWE draft night 1, and so kicked off on SmackDown. Actually, it was the contract signing for SmackDown.
Yep.
And we went into, I mean, this was pretty much run-of-the-mill stuff. There was nothing groundbreaking. You had AJ Styles and Cody Rhodes out there, and Styles kind of talking about how he's got his groove. Styles got his groove back, is what he was talking about, and how he beat LA Knight, and then he's going to go on to face Rhodes at Backlash, and talked about how, basically they'll see if Rhodes is fit to carry the title. And then Rhodes was like, I'm totally fit to carry the title. And it was just one of those things that it was pretty formulaic. They both showed respect for each other, signed the contracts. Cody starts taking off, and then Triple H's music hits because he's going to read the first pick, and then he invites Cody over to stand with him to read the first picks for round 1 of the draft. And so they went straight into round 1. I will say, as a kind of a precursor to this, there was more people just staying put as their draft picks than actually moving shows, which I kind of feels like a little cheap. It's like there was an entire round that was really just people staying where they are.
Yeah.
So it is what it is. But round 1 went like this. First pick was Bianca Belair, staying on SmackDown, so she's not going anywhere. Pick 2 was Jey Uso, staying on Raw. He's not going anywhere.
That one I saw coming because he's competing for the title from Raw. So I mean.
Yeah, it totally makes sense. And they already established that champions can't be drafted, so they're protected, obviously. And then pick 3 was NXT's Carmelo Hayes. Finally got called up to SmackDown, but he's been on SmackDown. He's been competing before on SmackDown. We've seen him, so it wasn't
official
a
now.
huge surprise, but it's officially. And then Raw's pick 4 was Seth Rollins, staying on Raw. So we got three people staying where they are, and one NXT call up that had already kind of been called up to SmackDown is where it landed. And then Carmelo Hayes came out and basically called out Cody Rhodes, said he's going to shoot a shot, and when he shoots, he doesn't miss. And then Cody Rhodes is like, okay. And so main event, Cody Cody Rhodes was going to face off against Carmelo Hayes in the main event of the evening. So they set that up for earlier on. So that's the first start of the show in terms of draft picks. How were you feeling at this point, Big D?
So I kind of thought it was interesting, the promo between the AJ and Cody. Both men are really good in the mic, so I thought it was good to see the banter back and forth. I was waiting for some kind of Bullet Club reference or call out or even like a Too Sweet going up, just because they both at one point led the Bullet Club. I think Cody would have been more recent than AJ, but yeah, AJ was once leader of the Bullet Club with Gallows and Anderson and everybody, but Cody was there too. He led the not want to say more recent because now you have Switchblade, but you had again you had two guys who had been well established, and he did touch on the whole go to Japan and all that good stuff. But it would have been nice to see. But that's just the geek in me. But overall, like you said, just run of the mill promo. It was nothing like, hey, talking trash. It was just more of like just respect, and he's going to show him because they've never faced off before. I'm excited for the match. Yeah. I'm really excited to see them fight. I think it'll be a great, great, great match at Backlash. Obviously, Cody's going to retain. He's not going to drop his title anytime soon. Yeah. So, but then Carmelo Hayes calling out Cody. I thought was a nice little touch. Nice little piece for him. Gives him a good opportunity for a first match. Makes it tough, right? I know we'll get into the match later, but makes it tough because you're like, okay, it's your debut match technically as official SmackDown guy, and it's Cody's champion. So you're not who you're gonna let take the loss. Obviously, you don't want to let your champion, but this guy's new. You want to build momentum for him. So we'll get into that later. But that's something that struck my mind early. But overall, pretty much average. We knew more or less these people were going to stay where they were. So
yeah, it was pretty much what I expected, but it was nothing groundbreaking had really happened at that point. Next up was Rey Mysterio and Dragon Lee finally teaming together against Legado del Fantasma. This was a good match. I'll say it was almost match of the night for me. I actually ended up going with Cody Rhodes and Carmelo Hayes as my match of the night. Same. But this one was really good. It was really solid. Remember I said a few weeks ago when Rey Mysterio first came back, I was like, man, he looked like he had lost a step, and he had a few times that he struggled.
Right.
He looked great in this one. Like he you could tell he's finally got his rhythm back. He looked really good, really solid all around in this one. So I wanted to give him his props because I had said that before. Rey Mysterio looked great in this one.
He did.
This one, Dragon Lee picked up the win officially for the team. And then the most predictable thing on earth happened, where Santos Escobar came out at the end and was like, "Hey, we finally, after all these weeks, got the security camera footage. I
said already who it was.
Attack Dragon Lee." Like I said, I know, like the most obvious reveal ever. And they show the security camera of Carlito attacking Dragon Lee, and then walking out of the room and coming back and going, "Oh my gosh!" It's like, how did he not notice it was Carlito? He didn't completely knock him unconscious, so it was like, okay. And so then Carlito is like standing there like, like, what do I do? And then he ends up hitting the backstabber on Dragon Lee, and then like tries to clear the way and sneak off, which apparently he wasn't in league with Santos Escobar. He just decided to do this. Is kind of the impression that I got. And then he's like, see, I was right. So very obvious reveal. I know you've mentioned it a few times.
Yeah.
It's like, we're clearly building towards Carlito's heel turn. So yeah, it's what we expected.
I feel okay. I didn't like the way it ended personally. I really didn't. I thought it was, it looked very cheesy that he was just kind of like scared. Like, he's like, and it's like, no, like when you have a heel turn like that, I expected like maybe
they do it with authority.
Yeah, or I feel like what should have happened was after he revealed it, before Ray and Dragon Lee could turn around, hit the backstabber on Dragon Lee so you can roll him out of the ring, and then go to run to do it to Ray, and then they kind of have that stop face to face because they're friends, and kind of like Ray, that hesitation because that's his boy. He brought him into LWO, and Carlito, because again they're good friends, kind of have that hesitation, and then just get out of the ring and go. At that point, then you kind of build that tension. I feel this one, it looked like he was just like, like a cartoonish kind of thing. He just like rolled out of the ring. I was waiting for
Yeah.
the little theme music to like run away and everything. Like
Oh yeah, like the Benny Hill like chase music.
yeah,
Well, it was funny because he was like the what do I do? And it's like, okay, what are you trying to explain here? Like, there's nothing to explain. That's you on the security camera. It's
yeah,
obviously you. So the fact that he's like hesitating and not really knowing what to do, I'm like, at least have some commitment.
yeah.
You attack this guy. You know they're going to show the security camera footage. Like, just to your point, do the full on heel turn. Just go for him. Start just attack Dragon Lee and be merciless, and then have your face off, get out of there, and then you can come back and explain it later and say, well, it's because you pushed Dragon Lee, and I thought you and I were supposed to be friends, and
Yeah.
you made him your heir apparent, and it made me mad. However you want to pitch this, we'll
Or
get to that later, but
or
it was
I feel what would have been nicer is when he went to roll the footage before he could start it, hit the backstabber on Dragon Lee and Ray, and
yeah,
then roll out, and then have them play it after the fact. You know, because you already had the reveal,
yeah,
and now it's just like it's just playing as he's beating them up. You know what I mean? So like
yeah,
that would have been interesting.
yeah.
to
That
see.
would have been that would have been a little bit better. At least
Numerous
you see
ways
him
it could have been
preemptively
done.
realizing he knows what's going to happen. But
Yeah.
But anyway, so that happened. Then right after that, speaking of craziness, Braun Breaker came out and squashed Cedric Alexander on his squash tour right now. I'm like, poor Cedric Alexander, man, just getting fed to Braun Breaker. But
yeah.
it was over with almost as fast as it started. Cedric tried to hit a handspring off of the ropes and then bounced back into the spear and
Which was
got
nice
caved
looking.
in, and that was that. And yeah,
That
it looked
was-
great. It
it
looked
was
absolutely
nice
great. But
looking.
it was just like, man, Cedric Alexander had some career momentum at one point. And now he's coming out.
He was
with no
cruiserweight
entrance,
champion. Yeah.
yeah, it was like getting crushed by Braun Breaker, but it was like, all right, it is what it is. They got to keep building him up as a monster heel, which led into the second round of the draft. Very appropriately so. So Tori Wilson and Michelle McCool came out this time to present. So it was nice to see them both again. SmackDown's next pick was Randy Orton, staying on SmackDown. Raw's next pick was Braun Breaker because they just saw him and they were so impressed they stole Braun Breaker away from SmackDown. So Braun Breaker's going to Raw. So that was the one that was actually a little bit of a change.
Yep.
And they show the War Room like, yes, they're all cheering.
Which I'm excited for. I'd love to see him on Raw.
Yeah,
That'd be
good.
cool. Yeah.
I think he'll do great there. Hopefully, doing a little bit more than just the weekly squash. They can get him into some programs with somebody. But Braun Breaker going to Raw, and then SmackDown's pick 3 was Nia Jax. So Nia Jax coming from Raw to SmackDown. So that was the other change. So she's going to be moving brands, which I was kind of thinking, okay, now you have her and Jade Cargill on the same show now.
Yep.
Are
Now
you
we
going to
can
be
get
able to
that
build
match.
to that eventually? Unless something happens with Jade on Monday night and she ends up changing brands, but we'll see. But Nia Jax officially moved over to SmackDown, and then Raw pick number 4 was Liv Morgan staying on Raw. That was that next group. Then right after that, we had Kevin Owens attacking Tama Tonga backstage, and so they're just kind of brawling. So they had that little piece, and then they went out to Kayla Braxton out on the ramp again. So you always know that something's up when Kayla's at the top of the ramp doing an interview. It's always something. So she's at the top of the ramp, and then she invites out Bianca Belair. And then Bianca Belair talks about she's going to go get the tag titles from the Kabuki Warriors, and her and Jade Cargill are. And then she mentions like at Backlash. So I'm like, okay, I guess they've got a tag match booked at Backlash already because she mentioned that specifically. So apparently it'll be the Kabuki Warriors versus Jade Cargill and Bianca Belair at Backlash. And the Kabuki Warriors come out to like jack with them, and then Jade Cargill comes out to even up, and they're all yelling at each other. And then the Benny Hill music should have hit at this point too, because Tama Tonga and Kevin Owens went like that down the ramp where they're still fighting with each other in a circle. And then they went down, interrupted the whole thing, and at that point, you had Solo and Tama beating up Kevin Owens, and then Randy Orton's music hits out of nowhere, which kind of makes sense because they've
helped each other
recently
out.
been working together, obviously, and they've helped each other out. So Randy Orton comes down there and helps clear the ring, and then it was funny where I think it was Wade Barrett that said like, how's KO gonna feel about Randy Orton helping him? And then as soon as he sees him, he like hugs him like he's his dad or something.
Yeah.
He's just like, and gives him a big bear hug. And I was like, okay, that was a little much. So they're kind of standing in the ring, and Randy keeps going and trying to get to them, but security keeps stopping them. And so that whole sequence happened. And then later on in the night, Teddy Long said that at Backlash it's going to be Solo and Tama Tonga versus Kevin Owens and Randy Orton. So that's happening at Backlash. Bloodline 2.0, I guess, versus them.
Yeah.
How'd you feel about all that, Big D?
It was a lot, but yeah, I'm excited to see the match. Tama Tonga, I've been a fan of, even when he was with Gorillas of Destiny with his brother. I think it's a great talent. I think I'm excited to see his debut match. I'm glad it's at a premium live event. That'll be good for him. Lets him build up more and more. And I think this is gonna be a very physical match, and I love those kind of matches. Someone's gonna get busted open. It's gonna be interesting, and I'm excited for it.
Yeah, it'll be good. I mean, it's just odd that they're all of a sudden like throw this stuff up there. We got the women's tag title that's going to come up, and then we've got this coming up. So they're just trying to fill everything in.
Well, I thought Jade and Bianca had won. I have to go back and look at my notes. I think they did get the number one.
Was it a number one contenders match? Because I couldn't remember.
So.
I know they had a match. I just wasn't sure if it was a number one contenders.
I think it was. I have to go back and look, but I'm pretty sure it was. But yeah, because I remember I was kind of like, well, they're a good tag team together. I'd much rather see them face each other personally. But yeah. I could see them as tag champions, so I feel if anyone's going to take the titles off of the Kabuki Warriors, it's going to be them. I feel that is a title change we'll see at Backlash, so we'll see how that goes.
Yeah. And then we went straight into a number one contenders match of Naomi versus Tiffany Stratton. This is Bayley's idea, with the winner is going to face Bayley at Backlash. So again, filling out the Backlash card. And Bayley was at ringside on commentary. This one was a good match, but again, shenanigans. Ends in a no contest. Actually, I hate it when they do that. Yeah. So it ends in a no contest because Nia Jax, newly drafted to SmackDown, comes out and attacks Bayley and beats her up and lays her out. And then Naomi tries to go to her aid and gets laid out, so that at that point, the referee calls it, and it's a no contest. And then Tiffany Stratton kind of takes advantage and drags Bayley and Naomi together so that she can hit the world's prettiest moonsault onto both of them at the same time. Just kind of take advantage after everything's over with. Like there's no match going on. It's already been declared a no contest. So this was fine. It's just kind of disappointing that they keep doing this. All these matches are ending in no contests because of some outside interference, usually from Nia Jax, usually involving Nia Jax to some way. So I guess she kind of picked up where she's left off on Raw in doing this, and now she's doing it on SmackDown. And then they announced this later that I was like, at Backlash, it's going to be a triple threat match for the women's title. So Bayley versus Naomi versus Tiffany Stratton. Ugh. You and I have talked about this before. I hate it when they do it's like the Logan Paul KO Randy Orton thing. It's like, stop making world title triple threat matches, because Naomi's losing. Naomi's taking a pin. She's going to take the pin. It'll probably be from Bayley. I don't see Bayley losing at this point, but it just feels just empty. Ugh.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of it. I wish it would have had a clear number one contender, and I just thought it was kind of weird because like Bayley's getting jumped, and I get it, that's her friend, but at the same time, as an athlete, you're like, hey, I'm competing for an opportunity here. What's happening to her has no effect on me right now. Nia's not even in the ring. Yeah, finish that off. Like, you know what I mean? Like, she was lining up for the victory. It's like, finish her off and then go help. Like, I don't know. Maybe that's just me being greedy, but I feel that's what should probably happen. But yeah, we'll see what happens.
Well, it would have made more sense too, because she just kind of laid her. She wasn't like bludgeoning her to death or anything. No. Like she just laid her out. That's it. Yeah. Nia was just. Nia's just like walking around like stalking everybody. So it's like it wasn't a need for you to intervene immediately, but it was, it was what it was. After that, we got round 4. Teddy Long
we
and
missed
JBL
round 3.
Came out.
We missed round 3. The Dudleys.
Oh yeah, I did miss round 3. Okay, the Dudleys. Yes. So we had the Dudleys. That was before the number one contenders match. I totally missed it. So Dudleys, Bubba Ray and Devon came out, which was fun to see. The Dudleys as always put the glasses on. And then we had this one was a lot of people just staying put. It was
it really was.
SmackDown's pick was LA Knight, stayed on SmackDown. Raw's pick was Ricochet, staying on Raw. SmackDown's pick, so they picked the Bloodline. So here's the thing that I have a problem with. So they got Solo Sikoa, Tama Tonga, and Paul Heyman. And so which officially says what Roman Reigns isn't part of the Bloodline. And I know they established earlier Roman Reigns said he was just staying on SmackDown, and he was not declaring for the draft. Like, you can do that, which is weird. But and then of course no Jimmy, so it's Solo, Tama, and Paul Heyman. So you can use one pick to take an entire faction. Like,
Yeah, they
how
kind of
does
did.
that work? And then,
Yeah, they've
go
done
ahead.
it before. I forgot when they made that a rule, but yeah, I've seen that,
Well,
and
it's done,
it's
but it's a dumb rule because so you couldn't do that with the Judgment Day
right.
because Damian Priest leads the Judgment Day, but he's protected, so you can't take any member of the
So then that
Judgment
means
Day.
the
You couldn't
Judgment
just
Day
be
is
like,
going to stay on
We're
Raw.
taking JD."
Yeah,
Does that mean that means they're going to stay put? Because so like how does that, like, is it if you're the leader, but if you're not the leader,
yeah.
then you keep them? Like, I don't know. Like, it gets a little loose
Well,
with the rules.
I feel
And
like
then
this is a
oh,
good
go
way
ahead.
for it to. Sorry, I feel like this is a good way to kind of build like that internal bloodline civil war. That's what you left. You
Yeah.
left Roman and Jimmy out, so that's good because then they can go to Raw hopefully and build, kind of rekindle whatever they had going on, so that as Solo's still adding people, because even Paul Heyman earlier in the night said, you keep adding new members, meaning that there's going to be another one. So I'm curious to see how that
Yeah.
goes. We're going to end up seeing a bloodline civil war at some point. So I think that's what it's setting
Yeah.
up.
And that'll be great.
Yeah.
That'll be great when it happens. And then final round from round 3 was Sheamus staying on Raw. So and the round 3 was all people staying put. And then round 4, which is Teddy Long and JBL.
Yep.
And then they did the next picks, which SmackDown pick 1 was AJ Styles staying put. A lot of this theme. And then Raw's pick was Alpha Academy. They said Chad Gable, and then they also said the Alpha Academy. So it's everybody. So it was Maxine Dupree, Otis, and Tozawa are all staying together. So
Yeah.
apparently it's all package deals. And then you have SmackDown's third pick was Andrade. So he's
Staying
is he
on
officially
SmackDown.
Raw or SmackDown?
No, he was SmackDown.
He's staying on SmackDown. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, he was SmackDown because I was like, he had bounced around and done matches
He
on
did,
Raw, so that's
yeah.
why I'm like, he was
Yeah.
kind of all over the place. So he's staying on SmackDown, and then Kiana James was Raw's final pick from NXT. So second NXT call up, did the interview with her at the Performance Center, and then that was after that where they announced like all the Backlash matches because this one was the final round right before the WWE. Or right before the Cody Rhodes WWE champion taking on Carmelo Hayes and kind of the recognition.
Was it me, or was that like the most awkward handshake half hug from Shawn Michaels to Kiana James?
Well, I was at first.
They're like in
when
the
I was
middle
watching
of
it,
interviewing her.
I was like, "Who's this weird dude?" Who's like. It took me like a second to realize it was Shawn
Shawn.
Michaels because I'm like, man, get out of her shot, dude. Like, this isn't about you. Was the first thing that I thought, and I was like, is this one of the NXT kids that's over there trying to like, I want to get on the camera. And
No,
let
it
me
was
steal
Shawn
this
Michaels.
moment, and then I realized it was Shawn Michaels. I was like, oh, Shawn. Like, can you just let her have her moment in the sun and not get yourself in there? That was
just
very awkward.
It was even her
waited.
reaction. She was like kind of like she didn't know what to do, and he like
Like, hey,
did
dude.
like a handshake hug kind of thing, and she kind of was like, okay, me too, I guess, and it was just awkward. And I was like, who let Shawn stumble onto the stage? Shawn, stay back. He's not yet. That would have been
I
cool for
know.
like after, like if they would have cut to it after, he would have been, I don't know. I get it. NXT's been his thing now, so I get it, but it was just kind of awkward. But yeah,
Well, it's like also, man, just step back, let the kids have their moment. Like, you've
Yeah.
had plenty of moments, Sean. Just let her do her thing. But
Yeah.
she'll be heading over. She'll be the second call up. We'll see what call ups we get on Raw. But the second and final call up for night 1 of the draft, which led us to the main event. So the main event was Cody Rhodes versus Carmelo Hayes. Match of the night for me.
I agree.
This one was really great. Carmelo Hayes can sell the heck out of everything.
He
I
sure
will say
can.
that he sold the heck out of absolutely everything that Cody threw at him. So it looked great. This one was competitive. So
Yeah.
kind of going back to you had mentioned earlier, it was like, what do you do here?
Right.
Because you don't want to make Cody look weak. It did look competitive. It didn't look like Cody was in any real danger the whole
No.
time, though. So it looked like he had moments where he was like, hey, what do I got to do to put this kid away? And you had him kick out of the Cody Cutter. You had him kick out of a lot of the signature moves. Obviously, he didn't kick out of the Crossroads. I thought it was pretty solid. I thought it did what it needed to do. I did think
Yeah.
it made Carmelo Hayes look like a legitimate contender
Yeah.
without really taking away from Cody. So I liked the way that they did that because it was also not like, oh, there's a bunch of near falls where Cody was in trouble. Because
Yeah.
I think that would have made him look bad of why is Carmelo Hayes giving you so much
Yeah.
trouble and putting you in legitimate danger. So I liked that. There was a scary moment at the very end where Cody went for the Cody cutter a second time and missed it, and he intentionally whiffed, but kind of landed awkwardly on his shoulder.
Yeah.
And then the match ended pretty quickly after that, but he was definitely like shaking his arm out and favoring his shoulder and shaking his arm out. Couldn't tell if it was him trying to sell a fake injury or if he really did tweak it, because the landing looked a little funny.
He did. He landed on
and
his
they
shoulder.
interviewed him afterwards.
Yeah.
Yeah, he landed on his shoulder, and then he when they interviewed him afterwards, they're like, "Hey, are you okay?" And he was like, "Always." That's what he said. So they're saying, he hasn't said that he's hurt. Definitely looks like, he dinged it up a little bit. Hopefully it's nothing severe.
Yeah.
But it was a little bit of a scary moment right before Backlash. He's probably fine.
Yeah, it's probably just a stinger, honestly, because he did land kind of awkwardly because he was going for the cutter, and I think it's just the way he landed. Maybe it's just like a little, like a stinger, like, oh, crap. Like, you know what I mean? I think he's fine. Or he's just a good seller.
Yeah.
Cody can sell, too, so, I mean...
Yeah, he can sell. But Carmelo sold everything, like, really, really, really convincingly. So I really enjoyed this match. It was a good way to close out. And then right afterwards, AJ Styles popped in the ring to do, like, a little surprise on Cody. He didn't attack him, but he kind of faked like he was going to jump him from behind.
And he told him, he was like,
turned around.
You're that close.
He's like, this close. And by the way, AJ Styles gets bigger every time I see that guy.
He does.
Jesus. When he was standing behind Cody, he looked like the boogeyman. Like, he was so jacked up. His shoulders are all pumped up. And I was like, man, he looks bigger than he did when he came back. Like, he's got something going on, but I can't say anything bad about it. He looks fantastic.
He does.
But daggum, every time I see him, he looks bigger and bigger and bigger. So he was hulking out on this one. And then that kind of set the stage for next week. They're going to have a face-off before Backlash on SmackDown. They kind of tease that. They'll come face-to-face. But table's pretty much set for Backlash, and that's how they close out the show, which I thought was solid. I'll give it a B. I mean, just because of the draft, I felt was a little underwhelming because it was a lot of so-and-so staying here, so-and-so staying here, so-and-so staying here.
Yeah.
But all in all, I thought it was good for what it was, and it got me excited about seeing day 2 for Raw and how the rest of the draft progresses out, how that's going to look.
I agree. I love the match. I think the benefit of this match is that I feel the way they built Carmelo Hayes in this match was good. It was very good because they didn't show that he was just newly drafted out of his league, got dominated by the champ. They showed that he hung in there, but he's missing just something. He's missing something. And maybe that's what fuels him. And maybe now it gives us an opportunity to bump him down to maybe like the Intercontinental title picture. Because I had a buddy of mine, Jesse. He shout out to my boy Jesse. Him and I always talk wrestling too. But he was kind of like, oh, it would be cool to see him go for the title after AJ. And I'm like, well, I'd much rather him go for like the Intercontinental title. Because, or even like the U.S. title, take it off of Logan Paul. I'd rather see that. Make him be the one to take it off of Logan Paul. Just because I feel like he in that match, the way they built him, it was more like he's good, but he's not there yet. But he can get there because he held his own against the champ. So I think that's kind of where that's where they left them, kind of in that limbo. So now it gives them an opportunity to jump into like a mid-card title reign, or maybe even King of the Ring, something like that to kind of help boost him up a little bit more, because he's still unknown to quite a few fans because not everyone watches NXT, unfortunately. But again, it would be great to see him kind of built up like that, and that way he can eventually. I would love to him be eventually in the title picture, but not yet. I think he needs to get like some mid-card titles first and then contend there for a while and then build himself up to the next level. But I think I can see him as a champ in the future, though.
Yeah, I agree. I think he's really great. But yeah, it makes sense to, hey, let's kind of warm him up, have him do one of these kind of mid-tier titles first before going for one of the world titles. But he's really excellent. Oh, and it was interesting you mentioned you mentioned about the U.S. Championship. So, interesting note, by the time we get to the end of Backlash, every title will have been defended since WrestleMania, except for the U.S. Championship, because we had the tag titles on Raw got defended last week. SmackDown will be this week, right before Backlash. Kabuki Warriors are defending the women's tag titles at Backlash. You got the World Heavyweight and WWE Championships at Backlash. The IC title was on Raw, and then probably get defended again pretty soon. Bailey's technically defended twice. She defended against Naomi. That was a no contest. And then she's going to defend it again at Backlash.
Yeah.
The only title that has disappeared is the U.S. Championship because Logan Paul just took it and went home and vanished. So say whatever you want to about him being a great athlete and all that. This is the new era where you have people defending titles on regular shows on Raw and SmackDown now.
Yeah.
Where's the U.S. Championship? It's not prestigious enough for him to just disappear with it.
He's defending the bottle making company because they're getting sued. That's what's going on with Pride. There's like some kind of allegations.
Well,
I don't know if they're getting sued, but there's some allegations
really?
about the bottle that's used to manufacture. I guess it contains some chemicals, or it's not good for you.
Like the plastics that they will. Oh wow. Good
Yeah,
times.
so he actually dropped
good luck with that,
he
Logan.
dropped a TikTok about it, explaining that he gets it from the same company as Coca-Cola, Pepsi, or whatever, which is cool. I think that's what's tying him up, but still no excuse. It's like, hey man, you asked to be in this world, man, so you need to defend, buddy.
You gotta come out and defend the title. Like this, it's not a title that you can hold on. You're not Roman Reigns. You can't hold it and defend it occasionally. Like the U.S. Championship needs to be out there. So hopefully soon. Mr. Paul.
And then we did have some draft announcements made on social media after SmackDown.
Oh, I hadn't seen that.
Yeah, the OC is staying on SmackDown. Baron Corbin got called up to SmackDown, so he's not going to be able to tag with Braun Breaker anymore. And then in an odd pairing, SmackDown took Cedric Alexander and Ashanti the Adonis, which is interesting. And then Raw took Shayna Baszler and Zoe Stark and Alba Fire, Isla Dawn, and Ivar.
Yeah, so a lot of folks kind of staying where they were. And except for Baron Corbin getting called up again. So, which don't mess it up. It's always like funny when it's like an NXT call up, and I'm like, dude was in WWE for a long time on Raw and SmackDown.
He was King of the Ring at one point.
It's odd to see him. Yeah, he was King of the Ring. He's the fact that he's being called up as a next generation superstar. It's like, dude, you've been here. But nice to see Baron again. End of Days is an awesome finisher. So
it is.
It is what it is.
Just no more Happy Corbin. For the love of God.
No more Happy Corbin. Got to do the heel thing, man.
Yeah, he's such a good heel. I love him as a heel.
Yeah, he really is. Well, and on that note, that's the recap for this week. Looking forward to it. Next week, you are on vacation. You will be cruising in the seas. So enjoy your vacation time, Big D. Bring us back a souvenir.
Yes, I will. Yes, maybe. We'll see if I remember. Because,
Like, look, I will be having many margaritas. I might not remember to bring one back. It's like, that's fine. But safe travels. Enjoy your time off.
Thank you.
You all will see me. You all will see me next week. So sorry, everyone. It'll be me. But again, thank you all for the support. Please remember to like, share, subscribe. Leave us your comments. Let us know if we're right, wrong, or indifferent. And again, really appreciate the support as always. And until next time, we've been Michael D'Angelo and Big D. Have yourselves a great rest of your week. We'll see you next time on the recap. Have a good one.